Welcome back, everybody. Just a reminder, if you haven't noticed that we have a problem, there's a problem with the link to the Hatfield campus. So please use your own data for access. Hopefully this problem can be sorted out very soon. Also a reminder, please, to all presenters to be backstage 15 minutes before the start of the session where you will be presenting. That is very important. And also just a reminder, please visit the booths of our exhibitors. They are assisting to make this day possible. And now I would like to introduce Nina Berger, who is chairing this session of undergraduate research. Over to Nina.
It seems Nina has also fallen off. Prof. Bond, if you can still hear me, I think we should just jump into our next presentations. Wonderful.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I have some connective issues, but I'm here. Hi, everyone. I'm Nina Berger. Currently in a very special spot at the moment. Here at Prof. Barney. Okay, welcome. I'm Nina Berger. I'm fourth year veterinary student here at the University of Pretoria. I am session chair for the Veterinary Research Report, VRE 600. Now, this is a quite special undergraduate module. It starts in your second year and your fifth year, and it basically teaches you how to do research in the veterinary science field and how to write a scientific report exactly how you have to in the prescribed format. So the students have the opportunity to write a report, a literature review or a case study, and an academic staff member will facilitate them and just review, make sure everything is fine. And we're going to have 3 presentations today from Gabriella, Naidu, Cormay Randolph, and T. Hilaka. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A session. I will just like to announce that Gabriella will be here for Q&A afterwards, and then the rest of the questions that are posted in the Q&A, we will just have to email to the relevant presenters who aren't here backstage with us. Thank you.
Good day, my name is Cormay Randolph. The purpose of this literature study is to determine the different concentrations of platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells found in different products evaluated in literature. Firstly, we will be looking at the definition of platelet-rich plasma, also known as PRP. PRP is often described as an autologous biological product in which the concentration of plasma is above the baseline platelet count, or where there is a significant increase in the concentration of platelets in comparison to the blood baseline. PRP can also be classified as being either leukocyte-rich or poor, depending on the concentration of leukocytes found within the final PRP products. Platelet-rich plasma, as previously stated, also known as PRP, has been used to treat specific musculoskeletal injuries in horses. According to the literature, positive effects have been found after PRP treatment. There is, however, limited knowledge about the ideal therapeutic concentration that is necessary for ideal PRP treatment. The platelets in PRP release various substances that aid in the healing process at the site of injury. These substances are proteins, cytokines, and growth factors. We'll not be discussing all the growth factors being released within this presentation. Regarding the collection of PRP, PRP can be collected with the use of a single or double centrifuge method, filtration system, or via apheresis. Regarding the methodology during the study, the article was divided into two sections. The first is a literature study evaluating the concentration of platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells found in the final PRP products, and the comparison between the different methods of PRP collection mentioned in the literature. The effective treatment concentration of PRP mentioned in the literature will also be evaluated. The second is an unpublished retrospective study during which the front limb suspension ligament branch injuries in horses were treated with the region lab BCT PRP and the results evaluated. The method of collection remained constant during the retrospective study in order to decrease variables regarding the final PRP concentration. We will not be discussing the methodology in detail today, but rather the results found and the conclusions made. Firstly, we will be discussing the concentration of PRP. The PRP collection systems function by collecting PRP by means of either a centrifuge, which means separating the different blood components, or the use of a capture solution and filtration system, which uses gravitational forces. ACP double syringe system, GPS3, and region kept BCT uses a single centrifuge method for collection. EBA20 uses a double centrifuge method, and EPET system passes blood through a capture solution and harvest device for collecting the PRP. Large discrepancies in the concentration of PRP can be seen when looking at the table below. These collection systems can be divided between low-yield devices with a range of 2.5 to 3 times the baseline concentration and high-yield devices with a range of 5 to 9 times the baseline concentration in comparison to blood baseline. The question now remains, with the large variety of results found, what concentration of PRP will have a clinical effect on the patients? With limited research, controversy still remains regarding the effective PRP concentration. We will secondly evaluate the white blood cells and red blood cells contamination found in PRP. The amount of contamination is dependent on the method used for collecting of the PRP. Both white blood cells and red blood cells can aid in the healing process along with platelets. They have been seen to cause a local inflammatory response, which can be viewed in a positive and negative light depending on the articles evaluated. PRP final products can also be described as being either leukocyte-rich or leukocyte-poor. Leukocyte-rich PRP has an antimicrobial effect. However, it can impede healing due to it containing neutrophils, which has metalloproteinases and a catabolic effect. Further studies are however necessary for the effect of white blood cells and red blood cells as contaminants to be defined. It was stated that destruction and local inflammation occurs due to red blood cells releasing free radicals and white blood cells releasing MMPs. We will lastly discuss suspensory ligament desmitis, which can lead to poor performance in sporting horses. Suspensory ligaments can often sustain core lesions which mostly affect thoracic limbs either unilaterally or bilaterally. In the unpublished retrospective study, positive results were found based on a small group of 9 horses. Both 2 to 3 intra-lesion treatments were performed using PRP from region lab PRP, a single centrifuge method. It is a low concentration PRP product producing 1.4 times the baseline concentration. The results showed improved ultrasound lesions, elimination of lameness following treatment, and return to previous exercise levels. These were very encouraging long-term results. 8 of the 9 horses evaluated returned to work again. It was also very encouraging to see that none of the horses showed any signs of re-injury following PRP treatment. Regarding the limitations and conclusions, literature indicated controversy between the limited amount of research performed. When performing future studies, the following also needs to be taken into consideration. With collection, it is important to note that not all human PRP collection methods can be effective for horses. In the unpublished retrospective study, positive results were seen following treatment. However, the study's limitation was the small group of cases used and the absence of a controlled group. Important aspects for clinicians to consider are affordability, ease of use in the field, blood volume needed, contamination risks, and the clinical effects seen. Future research is therefore necessary and will aid the clinician in answering these questions and to approach these cases in a more holistic manner. It will also provide more treatment options and will hopefully shorten the recovery period following injury and aid in lengthening the sporting careers of horses and their owners. These were the references used in writing this article. Thank you for your time today. Please do not hesitate to contact me should there be any questions.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Gabriella Naidu, a final year veterinary student. Today, I am presenting my final year research report, where we investigated the experiences of third year veterinary science students during their curricular community engagement. The aim of this investigation is to contemplate the impact that community engagement has on third year veterinary science students by using qualitative thematic inductive analysis of their written reflections. We used a case study approach and experiential learning as a theoretical framework. In the last few years, South African higher education institutions have adopted a new approach to community engagement by focusing on building mutually beneficial relationships between the community as well as the higher education institution. Curricular community engagement and service learning modules are important elements to help universities develop a broader and deeper impact on students and within communities through expert-based approaches. Community engagement learning provides many opportunities for building graduate attributes in the area of citizenship, employability, resilience, problem-solving, and self-motivation. In recent years, the veterinary profession has been disproportionately skewed, which leaves issues such as public health, food safety, food supply, and environmental security poorly served. The world is faced with several threats, including antimicrobial resistance, emerging infectious diseases, food security, biodiversity loss, and climate change, which reflect the interrelationships of human, animal, and environmental health. Therefore, in order for veterinarians to face these threats, the curriculum needs to teach veterinary graduates to broaden their sociological and ecological understanding and perspectives. Community engagement allows veterinary students to develop professional skills such as communication, equity-mindedness, inclusivity, and cultural competency. Kolb's 1984 experiential learning is used as a theoretical framework for this article. Kolb developed a four-stage cycle, namely concrete experience abilities, reflective observation abilities, abstract conceptualization abilities, and active experimentation abilities. Following these four stages, students are then able to utilize and transform their experiential learning experiences to develop knowledge and skills which can be incorporated into their future profession. We employed a case study approach for this article as it allowed an in-depth investigation of the topic within its real-life settings. The sample for this research article included all third-year veterinary science students enrolled in the Bachelor of Veterinary Science undergraduate degree in the module Veterinary Professional Life 300 at the University of Pretoria Faculty of Veterinary Science for the 2019 academic year. The students were required to complete a community engagement project as part of their Veterinary Professional Life module. Students were randomly allocated into groups of 5, and each group was assigned a community partner, which could have either been a school in a rural area, a community veterinary clinic, or an organization involved in a community engagement. The theme for 2009 was One Health, One Welfare Education, which focused on issues such as dog bite prevention, rabies vaccinations, and animal ownership. Students were required to develop a proposal to address issues found in their target communities regarding the One Health, One Welfare education theme. After the implementation of their planned proposals, students were required to write a reflection based on the experience of the community engagement project. In their reflections, students were tasked to describe what their group did for the project, the impact on their community partner, and the impact that was had on each student individually. For this article, we utilized a 6-phase qualitative thematic inductive analysis because it provided a rich and detailed account of data by identifying, analyzing, and reporting themes within a dataset. Phase 1 required repeated rereading of the students' written reflections. Phase 2 included generating initial codes using meaningful phrases or sentences. And finally, Phase 6 was the selection of meaningful extract examples and relating it back to the research question. The following themes relevant to the research question emerged from the dataset, with supporting extracts taken from the students' written reflections to further support the themes that emerged. Theme 1 was defined as knowledge, skills, and insights gained, with the following sub-themes: communication skills, new insights into animal health and welfare in partner communities. Theme 2 was perceived benefits for the community. Theme 3, challenges faced and how they were overcome, with the following sub-themes: stepping out of one's comfort zone, team-based learning, and language barriers. And finally, Theme 4 was understanding the One Health role of a veterinarian in the community. The outcomes of the study indicate that through this learning opportunity, Kolb's 1984 experiential learning theory was demonstrated. Concrete experience was achieved by students through the acquisition of practical experience during their third-year veterinary science community engagement assignment. Practical experiences include communication with community partners and peers, as well as building relationships with their peers and community partners. The second stage of the cycle, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, was demonstrated through the students' ability to utilize veterinary knowledge gained through their studies and relate to their community partner in a way that would be beneficial to the community members and their animals. Finally, it was evident that through this learning experience, students were able to gain insight about various community and cultural differences in South Africa, expand their understanding of their role as a future veterinarian in a community-based context, overcome personal challenges, and broaden their knowledge, skills, insights, not only as a future veterinarian, but also as a socially responsible citizen. All of which is indicative of the active experimentation stage of Kolb's experiential learning theory. In their written reflections, most of the students expressed how through this experience they were able to expand their knowledge and skills, as well as gain new insights about themselves and the community in which they were partnered with. Many students conveyed that through this learning opportunity, their communication skills improved vastly. Some students noted that they were able to improve on their communication skills, not only with the adult community members, but also with the children and their group members. Students also felt as though their knowledge and skills were put to the test, and they were able to convey difficult veterinary terminology and concepts in ways that community members were able to understand. Students expressed newfound insights regarding animal health care in underprivileged communities in South Africa. Marginalized communities may lack proper animal health care services, especially in livestock-dependent communities. Many students reflected that they were unaware of the different cultural beliefs and practices in the community regarding animal and animal health care. Other students were able to realize the importance of building trusting relationships with the community, especially when there are so many cultural differences. The biggest realization among students through this learning opportunity was that the veterinary services in rural communities needs to be approached in a way that not only benefits the animals, but benefits the people as well. Most students expressed that through the community engagement opportunity, they developed a deeper understanding of the veterinary profession. Other students appreciated the fact that through this learning opportunity, they were able to become more open-minded about primary animal health care in underprivileged communities. Students also noted that they were able to experience joy in teaching children about animal health care, and some students expressed a sense of fulfillment to be able to assist these communities. This theme explores the perceived benefits to the community that students expressed as a result of this learning opportunity. Rabies prevention was one of the main topics that the students discussed with the community, and they felt that they had shared important information to help prevent rabies in the community. Other topics such as animal welfare and husbandry were also discussed with the communities. Students expressed that through these discussions they were able to improve animal health welfare and change outdated perceptions by educating the children of the community about basic animal health and behavior. In this theme, we explore the many challenges faced by the students during this learning opportunity. Challenges expressed were either personal or involved something that was out of their control. Students expressed that when confronted with these challenges, they were forced to adapt. The following sub-themes explore the most common types of challenges faced by the students and reveals how they were able to or attempted to overcome it. Majority of the students expressed that one of the biggest challenges of this learning opportunity was the idea that they had to force themselves out of their comfort zone, and for some this was a positive experience. Although each student's comfort zone is different, many students express communicating with others, especially children, as a challenge for them. Overall, students expressed their gratitude for being forced out of their comfort zone, as through this experience they were able to gain skills and insights into themselves. Other students also expressed concern that the language barrier would hinder their ability to convey their message to the community. However, some students were able to overcome language barriers, either by learning common phrases in the community's language or using an interpreter to help relay the information. Other students expressed that the language barrier encouraged them to make their presentations to the community easy and simple to understand using basic English phrases. Students in the study were particularly hesitant about the group work aspect of this learning opportunity. However, at the end of the learning opportunity, the attitude toward working in a group drastically changed as students overcame their initial hesitations through finding strategies to improve group work. Students were also able to identify personal strengths and weaknesses, which they used to work together more efficiently. Through this learning opportunity, students gained insight into the potential roles of the veterinarian in the community. Students reflected on the complexity of the relationship between humans and animals and identified that through the community engagement, veterinary professionals can build relationships that create opportunities for community members to better trust and comply with veterinary recommendations to increase patient well-being. Most students expressed more understanding about the concept of One Health through participation in this learning opportunity. This study contributes to the existing literature on veterinary students' experience on curricular community engagement. It also provides insights on the use of experiential learning as a theoretical framework for community engagement activities in veterinary science. This study furthermore contributes to the existing knowledge on the impact of curricular community engagement on veterinary science students. Experiential learning in a community engagement setting in third-year veterinary science students provides the opportunity to develop personal and professional skills that would not only shape their careers as a veterinarian, but also their role as a socially responsible citizen. Although we live in a world nowadays where everything has become virtual and I cannot be with you to present in person, I thank you very much for joining my presentation today.
Good day, my name is Chloe Tucker, and I'll be giving a presentation on animal welfare organizations in South Africa. Very little is known about the state of welfare organizations in our country, and social media sites are often littered with appeals from various organizations that deal with a variety of aspects of animal welfare. All these organizations can only survive if they are financially supported by public donations. Our perception is that these organizations compete for funding and they are not always operated efficiently. In a quest to better understand how these animal welfare services in South Africa can be streamlined to be more efficient in addressing the real need, we wanted to find out how many organizations exist, where they are, what services they offer, and how legitimate they are. In conducting our study, we relied on the internet. We used Google search to find various websites, social media pages of these organizations. The term animal welfare organizations was used on Google search to find them, and the data was collected. Our selection criteria for these organizations was that they had to provide welfare services to the public and they had to be a non-profit organization. The data we collected on each organization was the organization name, registration number, the species which they deal with, the services they offer, the location, whether they are pro-life or pro-euthanasia, and all of this was then collated into an Excel spreadsheet. We found 278 animal welfare organizations in the country offering the following services: shelter and fostering, humane education, veterinary services such as sterilizations, vaccinations, feeding programs, outreaches and community engagement, and animal-assisted therapy. In terms of location, we found that most of these organizations are based in single locations, whereas a few others are based in multiple locations. In other words, they have several branches in different locations. For example, the Society for Prevention of Cruelty in Animals, or in short SPCA, has a total of 82 branches nationwide, which are located in all 9 provinces. They contribute 29% to all of the animal organizations in the country. Other organizations with multiple branches include Animal Anti-Cruelty League, or AACL, People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, or PDSA, and Pet Empowerment in Townships, or PETS. On the map, we wrote down these organizations in terms of the total number of organizations per province, and then we further broke them down into SPCA branches within that province and non-SPCA branches within the province, shown by AWO on the map. We found that a majority of these organizations were legally registered. For example, the SPCA, Pro-Life Pet Rescue, and Woodrow Animal Rescue. These organizations were either registered as an NPO, a BPO, NPC, NGO, or any combination of these. Only as low as less than 2% of these organizations were not registered. Comparison of animal welfare organizations with the population number and economic activity per province showed that Gauteng Province, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal had the highest population numbers and were also contributed the highest to the gross domestic product, or the GDP. The very same organizations were found to have the highest number of animal welfare organizations, with Gauteng leading with 37% of animal welfare organizations, Western Cape with 26%, and KwaZulu-Natal with 14%. And accordingly, the bottom 3 provinces with the lowest population numbers and contribution to the GDP ended up having the lowest numbers of animal welfare organizations. The spike for the Western Cape is probably due to a larger number of small organizations in that provinces. We don't know why, and this would be a good topic to research further. These organizations were found mostly in urban areas. Since we did not do the statistical analysis, we cannot say to what extent these relationships are statistically significant, but this could be expanded upon in further studies. From these results, it appears that animal welfare services are concentrated in more wealthy provinces, where people are more likely to have affordable veterinary services. We've noticed that these organizations only offer a few services at a time, and some organizations prefer to work with certain types of animals or certain types of breeds. For example, the UK Rescue is part of the 14% of the breed-specific organizations that we were able to find. Some of these organizations are rescue-orientated, meaning they remove animals from dire situations where they are neglected or being abused, and then placing them in foster homes or shelters. Both shelter and foster homes have pros and cons, as well as the pro-life and pre-euthanasia types of situations. We also noted that registering these types of organizations increase their credibility, and thus increasing their chances of being funded. But however, we also noted that non-registered organizations also seem to be benefiting from independent funding. While the 278 organizations we documented in this study are possibly just a fraction of what is currently happening in South Africa, we do now have a better understanding of the provincial distribution and services rendered by these animal welfare organizations in the country. The geographical locations of these organizations correspond mostly with population density and economic activity. The Western Cape appears to have a higher number of organizations in relation to the two factors when compared to other provinces. The future. Going forward, this database can be expanded and statistically significant trends can be investigated. A new study is currently underway to investigate how veterinary professionals are involved in animal welfare and community engagement. And together, these two studies should provide a good database for identifying the gaps in animal health and animal welfare services where they are needed most. For example, in resource-poor areas. The findings from these studies will be used to develop a systems approach to addressing animal health and welfare needs in South Africa, especially in disadvantaged communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for everyone that has enjoyed this session with us. We've got some questions posted here in the Q&A. Firstly, there we go. Firstly, we're going to ask Gabriella about community engagement. This question comes from me. I wanted to know about COVID-19 protocols and how we could improve community engagement. For example, when I was third year, we used to have VPL, where we would go to different communities to perform community engagement. But then when COVID hit, we weren't allowed to go and we couldn't visit them. So we couldn't do what we had to do. So I want to know from you how you think we could improve community engagement in this situation. Gabriella, I think that you might be muted. No, we can still not hear you.
Gabriella, plug out your earphones. Okay, still nothing. You're going to have to refresh quickly. I think it might have plugged out in the session. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. Let's just give it a minute so Gabriella can just refresh. Okay, she's back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Nina, for that question. Definitely, COVID is something that we have to find different ways to move around it and figure out how we can deal with this pandemic, because it's here for a while. But it's very difficult to do community service without going into the community, because I feel as though the community needs to see you. They need to have you there present with them. You need to actually engage. And I think it's very important that, we do put our health first. Recently, there was outreach a One Health outreach that the undergraduates were part of with the medical students, and they employed social distancing and face masks and temperature checks, which I think is what most institutions and most companies, businesses, restaurants have employed, because we've got to continue, moving forward, but we've also got to protect ourselves. So I think in terms of COVID-19 protocols, it would be the social distancing, wearing our face masks, just being generally safe, because I don't think that we can have a virtual community service and virtual community engagement just because those areas do not have access to internet or access to the technology that we have. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much. Another question that we have for you is, did students further elaborate on what they define as One Health, as the One Health concept? This is from your lecturer.
Well, thanks for that question, Dr. Akil. So many students didn't really understand the One Health and define the concept of One Health as being something that was singular. It was more of different factors into One Health. And a lot of them realized the role of a veterinarian in One Health, but still were unable to fully understand the concept. Some students were able to agree that we as veterinarians play an important role in things such as food safety or rabies prevention, which is really important right now as we have a rabies outbreak in some of our provinces. However, I feel as though the concept of One Health, it didn't really come across to the students in the way that it should have presented it to itself, just because students focused more on education and they didn't really look at all the factors of being a veterinarian, on the role of a veterinarian. They were just basically focused on the fact that they were educating the community about animal health principles and focusing more on the animal factor, not so much on the human factor of One Health, which I feel, is an important aspect. And I feel like that's still poorly understood. And perhaps it's something that where you can only realize it with more experience in communities and realize it with working in food safety agencies or working in the public health sector or working as a state veterinarian. So that I feel like our students were lacking definitely understanding that concept.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Another question that we have from a fellow student, Narissa. She is asking, what do you think is important in planning community engagement? I know that you did touch on COVID protocols and COVID things, but I want to also know, what else?
All right, thanks, Narissa, for that question. So I think the most important thing in planning community engagement is communication. You need to be able to understand what the community expects of you and also what you expect of the community. A lot of the times with community engagement, it's almost like the saying where if you teach a man to fish, he can fish and make a living for the rest of his life. And I think that if we don't communicate with the community and explain to them what we expect from them or what they expect from us, we will never find a middle ground. And things that we wish to implement, like vaccinations and sterilization campaigns, wouldn't be possible because of the fact that they don't understand what your goal is, or you don't understand what their needs are. So it's very important to communicate and understand where you want, like what direction you want to go in. Another aspect that I feel is also very important is to understand the community, understand the dynamics in the community. I mean, we live in South Africa where we have 11 official languages, we have different cultures, different communities, and very often what we perceive as being important might not be what they perceive as being important. And that's why we need to be able to understand how the community works to better enable them, so that we can, actually make a difference. And it's not something that will just be implemented once and then not continue again after that. So I think that that's two very important aspects in planning a community engagement.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gabriella. To conclude the session, I have one last question for you, if you don't mind. I want to know from your side, what has been, like, the veterinary faculty has so many opportunities for community engagement, and you've obviously been on a few of them. I want to know, what was your favorite project, your favorite community engagement project that you've been on here at the veterinary faculty?
All right, I definitely have to say Maverick was one of my favorite community engagements. I was privileged to go on 3 Maverick outreaches, and it was definitely something that opened my eyes to the impact of One Health. And, very so often we forget that animals come with people, and it's important to know that if we take care of the people, we can take care of the animals. And I enjoyed speaking to the kids about their dogs and their cats, and seeing the joy on their face when we gave them advice, or when we helped their sick cat or sick dog, or when we taught them how to brush their dog. And for me personally, community engagement in primary animal health care is really a passion of mine. And I do hope one day to, in my own community in the Eastern Cape, in East London, to make a difference in that community, because I know that people do care about their animals, and they may not have the means to take care of them the way they should be taken care of. So I'd like to provide them with an opportunity to take care of their animals, and give the animal the best life possible. So by being on Maverick and seeing how much those people care about their animals, even though they've got so little, it really inspires me, because I know that, no matter what, these people really do care, and there is a potential to make a difference.
I totally agree with you. Maverick has also been one of my favorite community engagement projects, especially because the veterinary students of the university are there, the dentistry students are there, the veterinary students are there. It's one massive community engagement project, which is fantastic. All right, but I just want to thank all of the speakers. Gabrielle, also thank you for being here live to answer some of the questions. I really enjoyed all of your undergraduate research presentations. I'm going to close the session, and then we're going to move on to the next